YouTube video. Once again, we are continuing our review series on the Balance of Power book. Specifically, in this video, we're covering two more of the War Scroll battalions that you can find in the book that are linked from a narrative perspective. The first one being Neferata's Blood Court, which contains Neferata, Mortarch of Blood, one Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, which represents her commander Lord Harkdron, one Coven Throne, which is her handmaidens, and two units of Morghast Archai, which are her personal bodyguards. And the abilities are, the first one I'll actually read the full thing because there's actually some comedic value in the kind of fluff text. Sycophantic Adulation, or Sycophantic. Members of Neferata's entourage constantly reassure her of her own magnificence. Once per turn, you can reroll a die from any roll made for Neferata, as long as Lord Harkdron or Neferata's handmaidens are within 5 inches of her when you do so. So obviously you have to keep a unit pretty close to her, which somewhat is, cutting down your mobility. You're trading a little bit of unit flexibility and mobility to give Neferata the ability to reroll any single die that she needs in her turn, which honestly, that's a very powerful ability. You can, reroll it to hit, reroll it to wound, reroll a die when casting, reroll a save, reroll a die on charging. It is an extremely versatile ability that is probably one of the better abilities I've seen thus far that a War Scroll grants in terms of a singular ability in and of itself, not necessarily in how all the rules conveyed by a War Scroll battalion interact with each other. But as a single rule, that's a very powerful one. Second one is Terrifying Mistress, and it just says, whenever you set up this formation, pick one unit from it apart from Neferata. That unit has displeased her and is eager to make her think better of them. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for the unit for the duration of the battle. So obviously that's pretty good. It's basically similar to a lot of other commander effects that you'll see where within a certain range a unit will gain the ability to reroll 1s or whatever. But the fact that that's, that's battlefield wide basically is pretty good, and the fact that it's literally any of the units other than Neferata herself. So that could be, the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, that maybe you have him flying alongside Neferata every step of the way so that you have the two pretty powerful death magic wielding, monster flying vampires working together. I mean, obviously the two of them are going to be very powerful when used in conjunction. And finally, the last one is enemy models. It's called Unyielding Guardians. Enemy models cannot attack Neferata or target her with spells or abilities whilst they are within 3 inches of any of her Blood Court's Morghast Archai, which is an okay ability. It basically just means, though, that the Morghast are actually not going to be staying next to Neferata as much, necessarily. Now, if she charges into combat and you're using that to prevent them from attacking her, then yes. But otherwise, spells typically are not done from point-blank range. I mean, 12 to 18 inches is pretty standard range that you find for most of the spells in the game. So for them to be close enough to the opponent to prevent them from using that means they're going to have to be a fair distance away from Neferata. They're still close enough, obviously, on the battlefield to be able to get to her within a turn or two, but I would always imagine more of a bodyguard unit staying physically next to the model that they're trying to protect at all times, or within, maybe like 6 inches of the unit. So I thought that was kind of strange in terms of like the fluff. I don't think necessarily fits the rule as well as they might have intended it to. But that's the full extent of that War Scroll battalion. The second one is Lucilian's Wanton Horde, and I apologize. For some reason, every time I read anything Senesh, it takes on kind of like a French pronunciation. Like if I ever see it, that's just kind of how I pronounce it in my mind, even if I struggle to pronounce it in person. I mean, no offense to any of the French people or anything. That's just for some reason that it just seems to have that kind of flair to their naming scheme. But anyways, in his formation, you need a Lord of Senesh on mount. The weird little snake worm thing honestly looks kind of like a tube worm. You need 1 Chaos Chosen with the Mark of Senesh, which counts as the Amethyst Guard. You need 3 units of Daemonettes of Senesh and 1 unit of Seeker Chariots of Senesh. And the abilities you get are Revel in Battle, which it just says that you can roll on Triumph table for the Chaos Lord, even if he did not achieve a major victory in your last battle. And if he did, you can roll on it twice and choose which of the 2 results you want to use. So obviously that ability only comes into play if you're playing like a linked scenario, more focusing, you know, on a narrative, which is clearly what, you know, this entire book is focused on, and these formations in particular are. And then the second one is Wanton Acts of Violence. And it just says that if a model from the Amethyst Guard slays an enemy model, you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for all other units within this formation until the end of the phase. In addition, enemy units that are within 3 inches of the Amethyst Guard in the Battle Shock phase must subtract 1 from their bravery. So, clearly that's a pretty powerful ability, because all you have to do is kill 1 model, and then that triggers. And the fact that you can, it's a battlefield-wide ability is quite powerful, because it's affecting the entire formation. And the final one is Part Ranks. The Seeker Chariots in Lascilion's Wanton Horde can move through the Daemonettes from this battalion in the same manner as a unit that can fly. So again, that's, you know, pretty good. It just is increasing your mobility. You know, neither of these 2 battalions seem, in my opinion, at all overpowered, and don't really give any kind of amazing, you know, game-breaking abilities. I would honestly rate them both below the Malignant's War Scroll Battalion that you get in the box set, for example. So nothing, you know, nothing stupendous, but something that you can take that helps kind of turn a generic character in some of these, like the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, into unique characters, and you know, some War Scroll Battalions that kind of help you to play out the narratives described in this book more closely to how they're intended. But that's the end of this one. Stay tuned. We have 2 or 3 more videos of just the War Scroll Battalions that we will be going through. So until next time, this is James, and happy gaming.